U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the president wanted to size up Putin directly. Along those lines, Trump administration tempered expectation for major progress towards a ceasefire, calling the summit a listening exercise.
I think this is a listening exercise for the president. Look, only one party that's involved in this war is going to be present. And so this is for the president to go and to get, again, a more firm and better understanding of how we can hopefully bring this war to an end.
And DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us live with more. Akshay, a couple of days to go for the high-stakes meeting in Alaska. But the posturing over Ukraine's territorial sovereignty suggests there will not be any easy outcomes or solutions.
Well, absolutely, Shubhendu. As far as problems are concerned, as far as a possibility of a ceasefire are immense. As far as Russia is concerned, it has waged a bloody campaign as far as the special military operation is concerned since it has started. And the objectives have been pretty clear. So it started from the issue of NATO, and it has now evolved to a situation where Russia also is calling for the regions that that have the majority of Russian-speaking population. For example, Crimea, that was annexed by Russia earlier. Then there is Donetsk, Donbass, Luhansk, Zaporozhye as well, where the sort of a stalemate has prevailed over the last several months, especially the conflict is concerned. So Russia has been repeatedly calling for these regions to be separated from Ukraine because Russia claims that the population there does not want to be with Ukraine and they see their destiny with Russia. However, that claim has been disputed not only by Ukraine but by European leaders as well. From what all that we have heard as of now, Donald Trump has earlier mentioned that there may be a territory swap that may be necessary for a ceasefire to be implemented. However, it seems highly unlikely that in any such condition, Ukraine is going to agree to a peace deal, especially if it requires official exchange of territory, because that is going to impact Zelensky personally at domestic level, at its domestic politics, as well as the fate of Ukraine too. So it's highly unlikely that Ukraine in any condition is going to agree to any kind of land swap that as it has been suggested by Trump. So that may be another sticking point of another stalemate to continue as far as Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned. Okay. However, from the recent statements also, but just last one point here, Shubhendu, that Donald Trump has just a few hours back made a statement that when he was asked the question whether there will be involvement of Zelensky, Trump has said that there have been several meetings with Zelensky that have resulted into no positive outcome as far as ending the conflict is concerned. So US seems quite adamant on ending the conflict one way or another.
Right. And Akshay, what is the latest that you are learning from the battleground? Russian forces are reported to be making advancements as far as eastern Ukraine is concerned.
Well, there is an imbalance of power, clearly. Russia is a much larger country, much larger military, and unless Ukraine gets support directly from the European Union countries, as well as the US, it's highly unlikely that they will be able to stop any kind of advancements by the Russian forces. And perhaps this may also be a pressure tactic by Kremlin that if they can prove it to the world that they have the capability and capacity to move further in Ukraine with the use of force, there is highly unlikely that Ukraine on its own will be able to do anything to stop it, and that may pressurize the Ukrainian government to come to the sitting to dialogue table as well. And agree to some kind of land swaps. So that seems to be the case. However, the situation for the Ukrainian forces remain dangerous, especially with the advancement of the Russian forces in the eastern part, or rather in the eastern part of Ukraine and the western parts of Russia. So situation seems to be evolving on the ground as well, but it's being seen by the European countries, European Union as well, as a pressure tactic, which the European Union have responded by saying that they will not agree to any kind of agreement which Ukraine's say in it, or Kiev's agreement to it. So they seems to be sticking with the Ukrainian side. However, US has showed a sort of a roller coaster when it comes to decision making. Initially, the kind of argument we saw in the Oval Office between Zelensky and Trump alongside JD Vance, and then there was a complete U-turn with Trump stating that Putin is not agreeing to a ceasefire, and that is the reason why sanctions must be implemented not only on Russia but the countries that are importing Russian goods as well. So that was another pressure tactic, and now again a U-turn stating that Ukraine may have to agree to a land swap agreement, but it is unclear that what kind of land will Russia be giving to Ukraine, because Ukraine has made no such claims to it as of now. So the situation seems to be further complicated by the US involvement at this point, but all eyes will be on the meeting between Trump and Putin, and if they can come to an agreement that has an approval of Kiev as well, that will be required for a permanent peace in the region.
Akshay, thank you for those inputs.